Do you prefer doing color commentating or more play-by-play personally?
I prefer doing play-by-play. It's just a lot more fun,
Okay.
and when you're describing all of the action, like, you kind of will catch yourself getting caught up into it. I feel like I have like a scorching hot take here with play-by-play
Okay.
broadcasting. It's just one of those things. Like, you either have it, like, or you don't. I kind of think of it as like the same as like playing sports. Like, you either have it or like you don't. I remember talking with Andy McConnell, the head coach at KU, like, we were kind of in agreement with this, but we think that like kids who play club are oftentimes a lot more committed and love the game a lot more, just because you're driving an hour on a school night for a 10 o'clock practice.
Welcome back to the Next Gen podcast. This week we have a very fun guest. I know I say that every time, but I am getting to catch up with an old friend of mine as well. So Gabe, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for coming in. How are you doing?
Thanks for having me. I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm pretty good, just getting through it. We've had a busy couple weeks here at the station, getting ready for holiday parties and everything, and a lot of remote broadcasting that has been real fun. As you know, it's always something last minute technologically just doesn't like to work. But you know, we roll with the punches and we'll work with it. So we like to start off the podcast. First of all, I should introduce you because I always forget to do that. I think last week's episode, it took me like 10 minutes to finally be like, oh, this is actually what we're going to be talking about today. So for those of you who don't know Gabe like I do, Gabe is a KU alum, former KU journalism student, and now is working in the professional world of hockey broadcast. So before we get into all that, I do some fun, quick little questions just to get started. So gut answers, there are no wrong answers, but I will judge them anyway. So just whatever comes to your mind. What is your all-time lucky number?
74.
Why?
TJ Oshie, when he was in his prime with the St. Louis Blues, that's like when I got into hockey. And then like I switched to like 21 for a little bit. And then once I got back into high school, like when I was a freshman, I was football manager and I became best friends with like the lineman, and the one I was closest with also wore 74. And I think it was like on Twitter, I'm like, hey, like if you get this amount of retweets, I'll switch back to number 74, like just for you. So kind of like started out as a little bit of a joke, but it's a number I've carried with me for many years now. So
yeah, I didn't know you were a Blues fan. Are you
yeah.
still a Blues fan? Oh,
Yes.
obviously. Okay, I love it. Okay, I'm a Blues fan. I should have worn my sweater today. Perfect. Love that.
Had that forever. So
Okay, next. Who has been the biggest influence in your journalism career?
Oh, that's a good one. There's been a lot of them, but honestly, Jason Mowles, the play-by-play broadcaster for the Wichita Thunder, I guess rival now since I work for the Oilers, but just growing up around the Wichita Thunder, and once I got into play-by-play broadcasting, I really started to look up to him, and he's given me opportunities to kind of call some ECHL games when I was still at KU, and he was a big advocate, or I guess reference for me to get the job down here. So just kind of without him. And then I guess Rob Weingartner of the Wichita Junior Thunder. The team's not around anymore, but he was the one that gave me my first chance as well. So just kind of those two really helped me get to where I am today.
I was expecting Cal. Cal has gotten a lot of shout outs on this show. I don't even think he knows that it exists, but
I mean, he gets a special shout out too, because without him, I never would have broadcasted any KU hockey game ever. So
right.
Because he always let me check out the equipment and was always like telling me what I needed to hear and not what I wanted to hear. So
it's very true. He calls it how it is. I need to pull together some Cal clips or maybe get him on the show, because I've had Blake, I've had Carter, I've had Bez. I mean, all the guys you know. So
yeah, those are all fun guests too. I know it.
Exactly. I think Bez was our very first guest, actually, which just, I don't know why him. It was just probably the first one that texted me back.
Yeah, I mean, you got to start off on a high note anyway. And Bez,
right.
has some good stories. He's done a lot of good
Yeah.
stuff.
He came into the studio and everything. It was definitely a good time. It
That's
helped me like figure out because the whole also point of the show is to not only further help the growing community of broadcasters, but the current, us that are trying to figure it out. And so this is like my first podcast show. I think this is episode like 17, and we still definitely have our struggles, but we're
big.
figuring it out. So, what would be your biggest game day superstition?
Game day superstition. I have to have caffeine of some sort. It's definitely turned into Dutch Bros for home games. Um,
Okay.
like a year ago, if you told me I would love iced coffee, I would laugh at you because I was notorious for having energy drinks. But
Same.
caffeine of some sort. And then like I have to have like line charts made. Like I have to make my own. Like our coach like will make his own lineup chart, but I have to have my own printed off in some way. Cause I mean, like I don't know. Like I probably won't even look at it. Like I recognize like our players based on how they skate by now, but I have to print some sort of notes off that I make myself.
I do the exact same thing when I cover any KU game. Like obviously I can just pick them up in the press room, but I always make my own notes ahead of time. I don't know why, but I think it's just more like for me writing it down helps like commit it to memory. So, what is your favorite place that you've gotten to travel to for a work related event?
Ooh, like I'm gonna keep it in the realm of broadcasting, but definitely I would say New Mexico most
Okay.
recently. Um, just the way that like I kind of went in like with the NA3HL, the junior league I broadcast in, they have it set up like where it's only the home announcer. They don't have like an away feed. But like when I went there, like I was like, hey, like I'm here, I can help with anything. And then kind of like right before the game, they were like, our play-by-play guy's not showing up. Can you like, do you want to hop on the broadcast and like help our guy out? And I thought I was just going to be doing color, but we did something like I've never done before, and that's where we trade off play-by-play based on who has possession of the puck, and that was a lot of fun. Um, and then Saturday, like I also helped on the broadcast, like just because I didn't have someone show up last minute. And then Sunday, like I just kind of sit back and enjoy the game because I had a full crew. But just the way that the New Mexico Ice Wolves like treat their like guests, I guess would be the right way to put it. It was
Oh,
just phenomenal.
you want to include any of like those random road trips to Arkansas for KU hockey or
I
anything?
mean, Arkansas was definitely fun. I think UNL would probably have been my favorite rink to set up and broadcast in,
Mhm.
just because like I love Lincoln. I have friends that go there, and it's always just a beautiful town. And then I guess the Maryville Hockey Center was a lot of fun, even though like our setup wasn't the greatest like for the first 2 days, but doing 7 broadcasts in 3 days because no one else showed up was a lot of fun too. So
What challenges do occur when people don't show up? Is that like an often thing that you run into, or is that just random occurrences?
I mean, like for me, I haven't had a color guy with me for the junior games, like except for like one game. So I guess just when people don't show up, it kind of makes it more of a hassle because like you kind of prep having another voice on the broadcast with you where you have like a break to talk. But if they're not there, then you have to figure out how to fill in all of that dead air. So, I mean, like I don't know. I normally find a way to do it. I've been calling a lot of solo play-by-play games for hockey for a while, so like people not showing up hasn't thrown me off as much.
You've rolled with the punches pretty well,
Yeah,
gotten used
no.
to it. What would be your like end game all time job that you would want to have?
Honestly, I just want to put on the headset and call hockey, but if I had to like find an answer, like a game 7 of the finals, like kind of in any league really, and the team you're working for goes into overtime and they win. Like I that's just something I kind of picture announcing. Like I just want to be able to broadcast one of those memories just because like it's going to be something that everyone will go back and rewatch over and over like just years down the road, and like I'll be the one like bringing it to them.
For sure. Yeah. So we know where you want to go. How did you get there? How did you get into journalism in the first place? Like, why was that the career path you decided to take?
So my father like worked in the radio industry for the longest time, and then like it was the summer before fifth grade started, he kind of passed away. And like I kind of grew close with some of his coworkers from the radio station, and like they're the ones that like got me into hockey. So Mike McWilliam, he was the public address announcer for Wichita at that time. But like as I got like further into middle school, I think it was eighth grade, we're starting high school enrollment, and that's like when they start pushing like the, I guess, career track, like try to get you, encourage you to figure out what you want to do. And like I was just like, I just want to go into journalism, like work radio. And then it was right around like sophomore year of high school when I wanted to give this play-by-play thing a try. And then Rob Weingartner, who I mentioned earlier, like I remember I texted him freshman year and I was like, hey, can I give this a try? He's like, oh, maybe next year. And then like I kind of forgot about that conversation. Next year rolls around, and I think it might have been like the Monday, like before their home opener. He was like, hey, like, did you still want to give this a try? Like, we need someone for this weekend. And I guess just from there is like the domino effect.
Hmm. Never looked back, just kept
Yeah.
it rolling. So at KU, obviously, I met you through Media Crossroads, I believe, which again we've talked about a bunch on the show. How did you get involved? How did you walk in as a freshman, know like and get involved?
So like the only reason I chose KU in the very beginning was because the guaranteed opportunity with the hockey club. And like it's right around a month away from like moving. We get the news that we're not going to have a season, like because of COVID and all of that. So I kind of like start reaching out to KJHK and all of that, and I got involved with them freshman year. So it was kind of just like take the classes now, you'll get to broadcast later. And then like right around like the day before Thanksgiving, I got to call my first women's game in Allen Fieldhouse, and that was a lot of fun and just kind of developed from there. Sophomore year is when I started getting more involved with like the media crossroads and Kansas side of things.
What shows were you involved in?
It was mainly the like Good Morning KU. Like I appeared as like a guest a couple of times, and then I just joined the show for sophomore year. And then like junior year is when I helped out with playmakers doing the teleprompter. And then I was on Rookie Takeover. And then second semester of junior year, I kind of produced my own show, which was like Good Morning KU Sports, which I think Lindsay Ryan ended up taking over after me. But like once I kind of got around a senior year, I stepped away from like the media crossroads just because I knew I wasn't built for the newsroom.
Why is that?
It was mainly like with the KUJH stuff and just a lot going on, and I'm like this isn't kind of the track I need to be on for play-by-play broadcasting. Like I need to do more of like the media relations, like marketing type stuff. So I switched over to Stratcom. And
Fair enough.
then
I
like
feel like that's a
focused,
very valid story.
yeah, and then I focused on just the hockey club, KJHK, and UDK my senior year.
With hockey, first of all, I feel like anyone getting into broadcast, it's not the first thought, right? I mean, it's a good one, obviously, but I feel like anyone that starts off, they're like, I wanna be especially at KU, men's basketball,
Yeah.
football, even basketball now I feel like is, like, a hot topic. How did you explain your love of hockey to those who wouldn't understand it?
I kind of explained the background, how I got into it just at a really young age when I had a lot of big changes that not many kids that young can handle the greatest. And I
Sure.
was just like, hockey had me, and I stuck with it, kind of just like one of those things. And I mean, like heading into KU, hockey was like the only thing I broadcasted. So
Right. Well, okay, walk me through because throughout your college career, at least me watching it from being, a year younger and everything, you had it together. You were in my eyes at least, as a younger journalism student, the guy that if you needed to know about KU hockey, you text Gabe. What did your career with them look like? Was the roles that you held? What was game day like? Essentially, is the big one I'm gonna want to know about.
So let's see. When I first started, I honestly say I started my senior year of high school because when I took the tour, I met with the club president at the time, Erin Cole, who's still a good friend of mine. And then she basically told me that if I came to KU, the broadcast area was all mine. And then they mentioned the big border war game against Missouri. I know it's showdown right now, trademarked like that, but no, it's a border war. And you talk to anyone on the team that's involved, it's the rivalry gets a lot more personal. Once you get involved, even on ice, off ice, it's personal to you. But she talked about that, and then just kind of at that point, I was if I see something I want, I'm gonna go for it. So I was hey, can I broadcast that game? And then they say yes. So I was able to skip another day of school. A couple months later, we did another tour just so I could get it excused. But I remember putting on the headset for them, kind of not knowing what I was getting myself into, just because it was the first time I've ever broadcasted for that team, and they win 8-2, and I'm so excited to do this.
Right.
And then obviously we have to skip over freshman year at college because they didn't get to have the season. But sophomore year was probably one of the biggest tests, just because that's when we're building the broadcast for the first time at the good old ICI over in Independence.
Mm-hmm.
And trying just to figure out what's going on. And turns out my MacBook Air wasn't great enough to broadcast those games. So it looked like a PowerPoint my entire sophomore year, but just kind of building all of that up. And then junior, senior year is really where we started to get it turned around. But kind of going back to the game day routine, it was wake up, go to class, because I got stuck with Friday morning ones, my second semester junior year and senior year. So it was kind of just go to those class, print off all the game notes, pick up the equipment from Cal, and then book it home, change, and then get down to Independence. Because I always had to be the first one there too.
Right. Was that something that you put on yourself, or that you felt in your position you needed to
It
do?
was superstition type of thing. I kind of, broadcasters have to be some of the first ones there, get everything set up. Then you can kind of walk around, interact with the guys, see how they're feeling for the game, talk to coaches a little bit. That way you have a little bit more talking points. And then senior years, when we started to incorporate more of the interviews in, and then they've really took off with it this year. I kind of go back and watch them here and there, and they do a great job. So it, I guess, instills a little bit of confidence knowing that what I built is still going and kind of even getting better. But yeah, I was going to say, the routine is like any other, I guess, broadcaster's routine.
Right. How would you okay, let's say tomorrow I'm covering my first color commentating game. I'm putting on the headset. I don't know where to start. How do you get into your mindset? What would you tell someone trying to figure out, their own style of doing it? How do you just start talking?
So for if giving advice for someone doing color, do your research, let the play-by-play broadcaster describe the what, and then you go in and you describe the why and the how. Just because in my opinion, you're supposed to give the play-by-play guy those breaks, and then you're supposed to kind of break down what he just said. So for example, finding player bios, a player is, I guess you can tell he's playing a lot harder. You kind of go into detail in why, maybe it's his former team he's going up against or something like that. Or let's say, especially with hockey, the play is this way, there's a fight this way. You kind of explain what happened. And that's something I learned how to I guess catch on to and learned how to look for, even both as a play-by-play guy, because a lot of the games I've done, like recently, like I haven't had anyone else. So, but I guess like just doing your research and then just delivering the why and the how.
Do you prefer doing color commentating or more play-by-play personally?
I prefer doing play-by-play. It's just a lot more fun,
Okay.
and when you're describing all of the action, like you kind of will catch yourself getting caught up into it, like getting more excited when it's
Right.
a lot more intense and stuff like that.
I've never done either, but I think personally I would enjoy color more. I don't know. I always say, like, at this station, everyone makes fun of me. I'm the worst at stats. I'm the worst at, like, remembering, oh, like, in any league, this guy played for this team and now he plays at this team. And that it just does not stick in my brain at all. But they always make fun of me at the station. I say, I like sports. I love sports, obviously, but more for, like, the atmosphere and the culture of sports. So those, like, background stories, I think, would be more my interest. I also just hockey's hard to keep up with, like, in general. It's fast. How do
And
you if 10 things are going at once, how do you keep up with it?
I don't know. I feel like I talk fast
Mhm.
alone, so I think it just kind of helps.
It's just natural for you?
Yeah.
If someone was trying to work up to it, what would be the best, like, um, reference point that they could use?
I That's honestly a question like I don't know how to answer just
Right,
because
I don't either.
I feel like I have like a scorching hot take here with play-by-play
Okay.
broadcasting. It's just one of those things. Like you either have it like or you don't. I kind of think of it as like the same as like playing sports. Like you either have it or like you don't.
Right.
I don't know. That might be a scorching hot take.
It
I hope
might
I don't
be,
get
but
clipped for this, but like that's
oh, it's totally going in the clip. If you've watched any of our we take our, like, the hot take from the episode, and that's what we put on social media, so
that's just kind of like how I view it. I mean, like obviously like you can get trained up, but like for example, like I couldn't call football. I think there's too many people out on the field at once and like too little going on. With hockey, like you have fewer people and I guess too much going on. So
see,
like
that's why I
it,
think I could do football before I could do any other sport.
with play by play, like for me, like I always have to have something going on, like in order to do
Fair.
well. And I think that's why I've done a lot better. Like we have indoor football out here in Tulsa, and like I've done color a couple of times. Like I've done like pretty bad, but I better than I thought I was going to do. Like mainly because like with color and football being a little bit of a slower game, although like with the indoor aspect, it's a lot faster and a lot
Mhm.
like for me, it's real fun to watch. But like I have an easier time doing my job as color, like breaking down those little plays, like as opposed like as I would the hockey because like let's say the puck's like down here, you forget what happened like down here, like after like 15 seconds.
Right. So, at KU, you did broadcasting really for 3 years, right? Like, it color
Well,
for hockey and everything.
like hockey, I did play by play for
Yeah.
3 years, but like broad like play by play color like 4 years because I did KJHK, did men's and women's basketball, and then for football I would just do like the board shifts in the station.
Right. So how did you when you were like, "My time is coming to a close as a college student," how do you start figuring out your professional career?
Um, I started looking around like Teamwork Online and the Sports Talent Agency or whatever the STAA is. Like I would look at the postings on there. But I mean, I honestly didn't like actually apply to anything or like look that deep because like it once like January hit, well, I guess December, like kind of right around a year ago today. Like I think it was on the 14th of December last year is when someone tagged me in like a Facebook post and it was the posting for the job that I have now. And then like I was like, I want this, like I'm gonna go for it. And then kind of didn't look anywhere else after that. It was just one of those things like where they were ready to take a chance on me, so I was gonna take a chance on them.
And how'd
So
that work out? Now, if I read your LinkedIn correctly, you're the account executive for the Tulsa Oilers in the ECHL, as well as doing broadcast and communications for the Tulsa Junior Oilers. How are you doing both, first of all? That
So
seems like a lot.
my 9 to 5 is with the Tulsa Oilers of the ECHL, where like it's a sales job. Like I'm
Okay.
honestly like not the greatest at it. I could definitely do better, but like
Learning
on the
process.
game day side of things, like my responsibility is primarily with like the junior Oilers, and then like I also handle the day in day out like media relations stuff. So like let's say there's like a trade or a new signing, because like that does happen in junior hockey. It's like 16 to 20-year-olds. It's like a development league before college or
Okay.
pro, depending on how good the player is. But like it's definitely a balance. Like I'm still trying to figure out. But like the easiest way to explain it is my 9 to 5 is sales for the pro team. I help out with the pro team on the game days that don't conflict with the junior team. But like junior game days, like I'm the play-by-play guy in like media relations. So like basically just like the press releases and
Right.
Twitter.
So what all responsibilities do you hold, and which would you like to expand on in your own career?
I definitely want to expand more on like the play-by-play and the media relation stuff. I get like the sales part's really important about working in sports, but I feel like
Mhm.
I could definitely do better with play-by-play and like my media side of things. Like if I wasn't like so focused on trying to balance like both things at once.
Which one would you say you enjoy more? I think I know this answer.
Definitely the broadcasting.
Mhm. I mean, I feel like you're gonna take any in journalism, at least that I've learned, you take whatever is gonna get you that next step, even if it
Yeah,
might not look like it's on the path, it's gonna get you the bigger opportunities eventually.
yeah, definitely.
So, also on your LinkedIn, I just really went on a hardcore stalking mode earlier.
Uh,
I saw indoor football league. It had that mentioned. How
yeah,
is that? What is that? Like, how is that connected?
so like with a lot of like minor league hockey teams, they also have like an indoor football team that plays like in that same arena. And like out here, it's under the same ownership, so that's why it's also called the Tulsa Oilers. So like I guess I technically work for like 3 teams, but
Right.
right now it's only 2, and then like the occasional like football season ticket sale, which I haven't had very many of yet. But like closer to like March, I'll probably pick up the slack on that a little bit more. But I mean,
Mhm.
like it's just like a lot of the other arena football leagues. I think the IFL is a lot better. And kind of like when I was still at KU mentioning like, oh, like they have this, and this. And they're like, oh, indoor football. And I was like, yeah, it's in the IFL. And then everyone's like, oh, Kurt Warner, like,
Mhm.
because he played for the Iowa Barnstormers. So
Are any of your junior guys, you said that some of them could be college players, some of them could be going pro. Could you see any of the ones that you're working with right now being big shots?
I mean, with like a couple of them, yeah, just because like they're the 20-year-olds on the team in their final year, but like the rest of the team is like we have one 16-year-old, a good number of 17-year-olds, and the rest are like 18 and 19. So I think they play at least like 1 more or 2 more years of juniors.
Mhm.
But like down the road, yeah, I think like all of these kids like are capable of playing hockey like at some level, and especially with the growth of like the ACHA, which is kind of club, but like to me, it's still college hockey because you're
Right.
representing your school, you're playing against other schools. But I definitely think that a good number of them like have potential playing, or at least like playing at that like ACHA like college level.
Would you KU, going back to KU for a second. KU is obviously a club hockey level. Do you think what's the difference between the club level and that like D1 level of play? Is it more level of like strictly the level of play, or is it also on the administrative broadcast, all the moving parts side of it? Are they both kind
Yeah,
of lower
I
in
think
this
it's
area?
both, honestly, just like with the teams that are actually sanctioned with their school. That's honestly the biggest thing is like let's say like NCAA D1, those kids can go to school like on scholarship and stuff and all of that. Like here at the club level, these kids are paying to play. So
Mhm.
like I remember talking with Andy McConnell, the head coach at KU, like we were kind of in agreement with this, but we think that like kids who play club are oftentimes a lot more committed and love the game a lot more just because you're driving an hour on a school night for a 10 o'clock practice. Like then you have that hour drive back to Lawrence. And then like if you still have homework, like it's a really late night for you. And then like you also have to pay like your dues like to play on the team because that covers like the ice time, the hotels for the away games and all of that. And also the players are driving themselves like to the road games as well.
Right.
So
I mean, I was around all of that for a while. I remember those late nights. It's commitment. And I mean, you not even playing, still putting in that commitment, I think just shows the true love of the game. And that's kind of the whole point of sports. It keeps it from, I hate when I see sports completely take the business side on and it doesn't feel like this is a game anymore. This is a business. So I like seeing the fun side of it, you know?
yeah.
Um,
And then like kind of going back to that, like another one of the bigger differences is obviously the level of play. But I mean, you kind of get that with like scholarship hockey versus like pay to play leagues.
mhm. Let's jump into the border war because that is I think I went it would have been your soph I went your sophomore junior year, I think. I think. I don't remember the years, but whatever.
Was
The
it the
border
one
war.
in
One of them
Shawnee?
was where?
Was it the one in Shawnee at the KCIC?
Yeah, I went to that one and then I went to one that was at Cable Dahmer. The KCIC one was wild. Did you even notice while you were working the fight that broke down?
No. So what's funny is like the KCIC is like just a barn, let's say. And
Mhm.
our broadcast setup was on top of the referee locker rooms. So like when you walk in, it was to the right. And then Missouri's locker room is like clear on the other end to the left. And I didn't even hear about it until like after, but I guess like there were a bunch of KU fans like over on that side um saying things like I don't even want to know what they said. If I did, I
It's
couldn't
hockey, it
repeat
got
them
a
on.
little chippy. I mean,
And I don't even think that it's hockey has to do with anything. It's Kansas versus Missouri.
it's
But
true.
like I remember there were some Mizzou parents back behind the KU students. I
Mhm.
think the story tells itself just from there. Everyone can, um, I guess, use their context clues to guess what happened or uh, imagine on their own
Well,
what
with
they
that one,
want.
I don't even remember any fights with the players really. I definitely do that next year, but that first year that I went, first of all, it was the first hockey game I ever took my mom to. She had never experienced hockey, knew nothing that was going
What a day
on.
for her to experience.
Yeah. She met Carter's mom there and basically as soon as we walked in, they kicked out like 30 to 50 college kids that all got in a fight in the stands
I'm
just
pretty
because of this
sure
straight up
it
KU
was
versus
a certain
MU.
fraternity on the
Mhm.
campus of KU too, where one of the
Mhm.
players, like at that time, was in that house. So, like I remember that. I know the AE Pi guys were mostly behaved because like they were kind of down along the glass, like closer to me. But like that game was just really fun, and I honestly think it was in the best interest that like Missouri won their home game in that, and we won ours just because like there was a lot of stuff that went down behind the scenes and behind that. Like one of the presenting game sponsors would have gotten both schools like in a lot of trouble, either with their university or with USA Hockey alone, if the
Mhm.
game was played with that presenting sponsor. So it was a lot of Missouri like handling it the wrong way, like PR wise, but they gained a lot of traction from it. And I think it really
Yeah.
helped put them on the map just because like as much as I have disdain for that school, the way they have really turned things around and like where they're at now as a program has been something really special to watch, just in terms of growing the game.
Right.
But I mean, like, and then having us win that, like, on our home rink was really special, especially for the seniors. Max Brown, Aiden Pearson, and Steven Chevelis, just because, like, those were three guys that were around, like, the last time they went to nationals. They had to deal with all the COVID stuff. So for them to, like, to end their KU career with a win like that was really
Right.
awesome.
That game, wasn't it? Didn't we come back from like a big deficit? I think we did in that one.
I don't think it was, just because it was like that close, like from start
Okay.
to finish, and it was really close when we played them at the Jeff over. Well, it's the Washington Park like ice arena, but in Jefferson City.
Yeah. I You've touched a lot on like the growth of the game in general, and I think seeing that game and just KCIC in general as an arena and as a venue, and then switching the next year to Cable Dahmer, and like we
Yeah,
had Big
we
J and
had
Little J out there. There was just, I mean, you had intermissions with, fan activities. It was a for me, I was like, wow, changed the past year. This looks like
yeah.
a professional game, like with entertainment and
Well,
everything.
a lot of that is we were able to get the presenting game sponsor situation figured out, and then we had the Mavericks do a lot of the game presentation, and that alone just shows like how good they are, like game operations wise. Like that's one thing. Like as much disdain I have for the Mavericks, just growing up, like rooting against them, and then the team I work for now, they're still a division rival. Just one thing that like the few games I've gone to, like ECHL wise, there like their game presentation is like top notch, and just what they've done for like KU whenever they play their games there has been something really special to watch as well.
For sure. And then even last year, seeing the like I got the opportunity. Last year was my first time going as a media worker and not a fan, and doing interviews in the locker room and like full press conferences. I was like, the changes that this program has seen the past 2 or 3 years is crazy. They're not the same team in terms of operationally.
Yeah, no,
So,
it was a lot of fun. And then like just my senior year, border war, we can forget about my junior year one. That one wasn't the funnest. It's never fun calling a 15-2 loss, but
mhm.
like the senior year one, it kind of goes back to the same thing. Like that one was really special just because you look at where the seniors, like both on and off the ice, came in, and like the way they were going out. I mean, like with Mitch Miles, like the first season he played here, he was the only goalie.
Right.
So, and then with Cole Walsh, like that's a guy who laid his body on the line for the team so many times, like night in, night out. So, like just for them to go out with a win like that over Missouri, like when they were number 4, like they pumped us in the
Mhm.
conference championship, but like we got the game that like honestly mattered to us the most. Like it was just really special, and it meant a lot to me that I got to put on the headset, and that was kind of my way of going out too.
Right. How many games did you end up covering? I remember KU media posting something about.
Yeah, so I ended up doing 63 total for KU hockey. I include the one game I did before I was an actual student, just because like as soon as like I was there for that, they took me in, like I was part of the
Right.
staff. So I count that. But like overall, like broadcasting in total, that was my 200th game.
It's crazy. I mean, at like what? You would have been what, 21, 22, and already
Yeah,
covered 200 games.
yeah.
That's an
200
accomplishment in
games at 21.
right. I
So,
mean, I couldn't say that I've done it. I've
yeah.
covered like 4 for social media. Like baby steps.
Yeah,
So,
so it was like I think like 90 games already, like whether I was play by play or color, just heading into KU from my time with the Wichita Junior Thunder, because I did that for 3 years and then came here, and then I hit a 100 midway through freshman year just with KJHK. Because like when winter breaks around and everyone else is out of town, like there's still games that we're credentialed for. So I
mhm.
was able to pick up a lot of those. And then that's also back when KJHK didn't have enough people like that. But now it's like competitive to get like credentialed for a game just because of the way Landon Welch took over and helped grow it and then handed off to Federico Moreno. The way he's built that, especially like both my junior and senior year, it was phenomenal.
Okay. Well, enough reminiscing. You're in Tulsa now. You've been in Kansas for, to my knowledge, your whole life, growing up in Wichita, living in Lawrence. How are you doing being, like, away from home just as a general, recent college grad?
I mean, it's definitely really tough. Tulsa like doesn't feel like a place that a lot of people my age would be at. The people that are here are the ones that kind of lived here their whole life and are content with staying here. Like one of my best friends from KU, like is from like around here and moved back home. So I was able to see him like once, but I've been out here since middle of May. But I
Mhm.
mean, like I'm also like just go on the go, like crazy. So it's just one of those things like I haven't thought of a whole lot. I'm still 2.5 hours away from like my hometown. So that's like
Not
another
bad.
thing that's been easier. But I think it's just like the not knowing very many people and it just being work, work, sleep, and
Oh, I trust me, I feel it. I'm working in Overland Park, but still living in Lawrence and school there, and I'm literally the same. I'm like, I haven't seen my friends in
yeah,
too long because I am work, sleep, homework.
yeah,
That's it.
it's like pretty much just work and go home like nonstop.
I feel
But
like that's the one thing about journalism that it's like it's definitely rewarding, especially in sports, because like, at least you're covering something fun. You're not covering like life tragedies and stuff.
yeah, no,
It's
it's
rewarding, but it's
a
a
lot of
grind.
fun, and it's gonna get even tougher here, like when the spring semester starts, because I have to take my capstone still.
Oh yeah.
So there was a whole story. I'm not gonna get into that, but the TLDR of it is just I have one more class to take because when I switched majors, it pushed everything back. So
Right. Well, do you see Tulsa as being an end goal or a stepping stone?
this is just a stepping stone. I mean, I want to move up to like the next tier of junior hockey. So
Mhm.
like when that kind of opens up, that's kind of where I'm going to have to go. And I think that's just because it's the best thing for me. I mean, like I'm getting a little bit of sales experience. I'm still getting the broadcasting reps, so that'll definitely help me wherever is next. But I don't want to be here for too long, and that's not a knock on Tulsa. That's not a knock on the Oilers. It's just I want to get out a little bit further and explore
Yeah.
further than the Midwest and I guess South Division.
Yeah, fair enough. I totally feel that. I'm doing the same thing right now where I'm questioning grew up in Kansas, college in Kansas, current jobs in Kansas. Do I want to explore or like just
And
stick it out here?
kind of another thing is like I don't like want to get comfortable with being comfortable just because like
I
that's
like
why I
that.
didn't go back to work for the Wichita Thunder. I mean, that's a franchise I grew up loving. It's always going to have a special place in my heart, but if I went back to Wichita, I would be too comfortable. That's why I took the challenge of coming out here. Like I still barely know anyone outside of the rink here in Tulsa and like I want to grow a little bit more and like I always want to be able to go somewhere like where I'm uncomfortable and just because it makes me better.
I like that. Well, I think that is a great note to end on if that's okay with you. Um, Gabe, any last pieces of advice for young journalists, young broadcasters who want to get into it but are intimidated?
If you see something you want, go for it. If you see someone you look up to or kind of want to do what they do, reach out and just ask for an informational interview or kind of learn how they got there because a lot of the broadcasters once were in your shoes. They once also had people kind of helping them out the same way. And I mean, the worst they can say is no. And I mean, like that's also something you kind of got to get comfortable with too. But I honestly, if you see something you want, go for it because that's what I've done and it's worked out for me.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on today. Always great catching up with you. Everyone out there, make sure you follow G Daniel _74 on both Instagram and Twitter. I did my research.
Thank you.
Of course, if you want to see more of his content and check out the Tulsa Oilers as well to maybe hear him, or go back and watch some old KU hockey games. Those border wars are entertaining, and you'll get to hear from our lovely friend Gabe. So this episode, as always, is brought to you by 810 Sports Radio. 810 Sports Radio, powering the next generation of sports and sports broadcasters. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We will catch you next time.